Hi guys, what's up? This is Rocky DeRaze, co-founder and marketing technologist at 23 Arts. And I'm starting off a new series on UI design with Adobe Illustrator. And from this video, we'll be talking about how to create user interfaces, mockups using Adobe Illustrator. So this won't be a tutorial on Adobe Illustrator, rather we'll be using Adobe Illustrator to concentrate on user interface design. So in the first lesson today, I'll be talking about a brief introduction to what UI design with Adobe Illustrator looks like and why this software is the best one right now for the same. So let's get started. And before we move on, I'll talk about the reference textbook that I'm using over here. Although I'll be deriving a lot of the concepts from this textbook, I'll be talking about a lot of things from my own personal experience. So whatever we are discussing over here isn't necessarily limited to whatever the textbook has to say. But this is a great textbook and I think you should take a copy of it. So go ahead and buy one of your own. Alright, so let's get started. So what is Adobe Illustrator? Adobe Illustrator is a software that has a lot of advantages when it comes to creating vectors, when it comes to creating designs, and when it comes to creating logos and other kinds of vectors. So what happens in Adobe Illustrator is that you can give all your design specifications to the person working with the Adobe Illustrator software, and he comes up with various mockups and prototypes. So as you can see in the right side, we have a image of a mobile phone interface, and I'll tell you it can be created using Adobe Illustrator once you have a good grip, which I think you would over consistent practice and time. So you can create all kinds of user interfaces and give them as mockups to the vendors or to the clients. So what they do is that they confirm the design, and after that this design is passed over to the developers who build the components using the design as a reference. So whatever role is played by the illustrator, the actual illustrator as well as the software illustrator, is very important because that decides where the application goes ahead. So the user interface is very important component in our day-to-day life. So a good app without a good user interface is looked down upon, but a good interface with a bad app is generally looked as a good piece of software, even though if it is not. Even though the design is generally used to mask the functionality of the app, but both functionality and design play a major role in deciding an app or a website's future. So let's get ahead. So after that, we have a major point over here. It is a flexible vector-based drawing environment. Adobe Illustrator is a vector-based environment. So what is a vector-based environment? Vector-based environment means that the tools that we use over there, they create vector images. So there are two things called raster images as well as vector images. Raster images are created using a set of pixels, a predefined set of pixels which are filled with color. So vectors are not like that. Vectors work in a different way. Vectors are created with mathematical expressions, so they work on equations, whatever equations you have learned in your high school, more than that. So we'll be using several equations to define all this. What this does is that it allows the computer to process our expressions faster than what you would see in general pixel filling, which is what happens in Photoshop. So let's get ahead. So we have pretty good color tools. Again, you can refer to the right side and you can see the image below. So you can see a lot of colors are over there. You can have a slider, you can have a gradient. Anyways, we also have a lot of typography tools which are with major power force over here in Adobe Illustrator. And also we have design consistency tools. So what design consistency means is that once you create an app and once you create a font in it, the same font has to appear in all the places of the app or a website. So you cannot have a similar, you cannot have different kind of fonts on different pages. So that is considered to be very inconsistent. What consistency helps in as a UI design principle is that it provides similarity and it provides conformity. So what happens is that the user actually feels that he is in the same environment and he doesn't get lost somewhere else. So that is something which is enforced upon by Illustrator, because you can take advantage of the tools that it has to offer. We'll talk about those in the coming slides. So to end the slide, we have pixel precise layouts. What that means is that if you want to position your icons and your text in a certain way, or you need them to be visualized at a certain location, you can do that with the tools that are offered in Illustrator. So it helps us in positioning the elements exactly that we would like to visualize in the actual app. So let's get ahead. So what is vector based? So as you can see, I have a piece of art from Julio CFG from DeviantArt. It is of Dr. House, pretty good TV series by the way, House MD. So you can see it's a vector art. So what that means is that if you scale it about 20 times, it will stay the same, it won't get blurred. So that is the power of Illustrator applications and vector images. So vector based application is Illustrator. So it uses, as I've already said in the previous slide, it uses mathematical expressions instead of pixels. What Adobe Illustrator does is different from Adobe Photoshop's workaround. So how Photoshop works is that it defines a set of squares, like very small squares which we can't see unless we zoom in. So it fills one square after another with a color. But what this does is when you zoom it about 20 times, it'll bring about a really blurry kind of image, which won't be very good when it comes out in print or in visualization. So that is where Adobe Illustrator is a better player. So as I've already said, math instructions are executed faster by computers than drawing pixels. So that is why Illustrator is faster. As you can see below, we have several designs, and what I would like to say is that all these, when represented as mathematical expressions, can be drawn and redrawn again and again faster than what you would see in pixel filling. Okay, so benefits over other software. UX of Illustrator. So UX is the user experience, how a user feels when he is working with Adobe Illustrator. And it is commonly observed among users that while working with Illustrator, it is proper, like the flow is very fast and it happens smoothly. So no one faces any kind of files getting stuck or anything like that. Also, the AI documents are lesser in size than PSD, because AI is all about mathematics. It's all about equations and how and where the shapes are drawn at, how they are drawn is all transformed into mathematics. So when you look at PSD file works in a different way. So it has to fill each and every pixel, so it has to store a lot of information. So further ahead, we have infinite scalability of objects, as I was already saying. As you can see in the right side image, you have that before and after. There is no loss in the image when you scale it up. And lastly, we have a stable workspace. So a stable workspace is like a workspace that doesn't often crash or doesn't often report errors or cutting off links between other tools. So this happens very less. I wouldn't say it happens never. So it happens really less. So the probability of it happening is pretty less. And also, as you can see, we have a picture over here that I've taken from the internet. So you can see that the file size of a vector doesn't change, whereas a bitmap's file size increases as per the pixel size. So this is one great advantage of using Adobe Illustrator for creating UI applications. Alright, so getting ahead, we have important principles of design, which are color theory and typography theory. So these two are really reinforced by the use of Adobe Illustrator tools. So there are several tools that take care of the color part as well as typography part. So as you can see below, we have a typography where there's a baseline, mean line, cap height. All these can be taken care of by the Illustrator program. So I've taken this picture from the link given below, so you can go ahead and read about what they have to say as well. I'll put that link in the description as well. So as you can see, you have various other descriptions of the properties in the typography. So you have a baseline, you have a stem. Even though it is not needed to this extent for you to know when you're getting into Illustrator, it will help if you once want to start off creating new fonts on your own. So all this can be done as part of a Illustrator course. So since this is UI design, we won't be focusing much on this. So typography, we have professional level typography tools in Adobe Illustrator. So all the kinds of tools which were used since a long time in the world of typing has all have been put up in Adobe Illustrator. So we have good typography, so that means we have good UI as well as UX. We have anti-aliasing options starting from CS5. What this means is that if you can refer to the second image, the image on the right, if you can look at the image on the right, you can see that there are two things, aliased and anti-aliased. So what aliased is that it has jagged lines, so the lines are really sharp, which generally creates a eerie look, so it doesn't create a good feel when you look at it. But when you have anti-aliasing, what happens is that the edges are blurred, with which blurring curved edges are made to look smooth, which is very good in a lot of applications. These days we have anti-aliasing as well in 3D applications as well, in the 3D world. So games with anti-aliasing are pretty much preferred over the ones without anti-aliasing. So further, when you talk about simulation of the design elements that we create, so what happens with all the reinforcements given in Illustrator is that when you simulate all the elements, it comes down naturally, almost more accurate than ever before. It shows you how it will look on a device. So for example, if I'm working on something and I'm creating a web app for a Mac viewer or any kind of other browser, so if I create something, it will almost show me like how it is going to look exactly in the browser or other kind of applications. So let's go ahead, and in typography you have agility when setting type, which means what it means is that you have various options and you have various tools to work around with, and you have complete freedom in changing how a certain thing looks like. So you have character styles and paragraph styles. Character styles is when it talks about just a character, so how a character has to change its size, width and scalability and all that. Whereas paragraph styles is that line to line, how the difference happens is what is defined by the paragraph styles. You can have align left, align to the middle, align to the right, justify text, all those things. So once you get started with the Illustrator on your own, you can explore all these options one by one. You also have glyphs panel, which has tons of symbols. So in case you want certain Greek symbols or certain moon symbols, you can directly take them up from the glyphs panel in Illustrator instead of going to character map or instead of going to the internet. You also have a word wrap options in Adobe Illustrator so as to simulate exactly how word wrap happens on web pages. If you've already worked with web pages before, you'll know that text can be word wrapped around the image which is present on a web page, or else you can even have no wrap and let the text flow after the image is done. So all these kinds of things are present in Illustrator as well, and thus they help you look and visualize how it will happen later on in the web page. Alright, so let's get into color. You have a lot of color schemes. What color schemes are that you have a standard set of colors which go well with each other, and they conform to certain rules of color, natural colors. So when you use these colors, they actually give an appealing look. So these kind of color schemes can be found in Illustrator as well as they can be created. So you can come up with a new color scheme on your own, or you can find out from other websites and give them in Illustrator. So thus you can come up with different color palettes as well. Instead of the already defined color palettes, you can give custom color palettes. What this does is that if you have a document where you're using certain color palette again and again, you can save them as a separate swatch, as a separate group of colors which we can reuse again and again. Also, you have custom gradients. Gradients are nothing but smooth transitions from one color to another. So you can have tons of them on Illustrator as well. You can create new gradients, and also we have standard color harmony rules. As I've mentioned over here, you can change them with ease on Illustrator. Alright, so consistency, as I was telling you, design should be consistent. So whatever style you're using on one letter should be the same you use on another letter, unless specifically you are working with some other kind of style. So a document has majorly one or two maximum styles. So you don't when you start working with Illustrator, you see that if you don't use styles, if you don't use preset styles, you'll have to define the width, you have to define font size again and again as you create new pages of a similar of the same document. So let us say you have 4 pages to create of a document, and you want to use the same font, same paragraph spacing. So you don't have to refer to the values, the numerical values again and again. Instead, you can save all the values as a style, and you can apply the style again and again so that it eases your process. You don't have to worry about the font size if you're conforming to that or not. And you can have appearances as styles as well. Appearances means what fill you're giving something, what stroke you're giving something, the transparency of the the transparency of the fonts, and also the effects. So all these can be taken care of by the Illustrator tools. So you have portable color swatch groups. As I was telling in the previous slide, you can have a swatch and you can repeat it again and again so that you know what colors you're using. So let's go further. Consistency. So symbols are also used for consistency. A symbol is an object that can be used multiple times. So let us say you have a triangular piece of art which you would like to create again and again. So you can save it as a symbol and you can use it further again and again in several other documents. But what happens is that if you change the original document's triangle, all the other documents change as well. So how is this useful? Is that if at all you're using symbols to refer to points or refer to certain areas in a presentation or a web app, and suddenly you come across the board of decision makers, and they say that they don't want the symbol, instead they want a squarish symbol. So you don't have to go around and delete each and every symbol that you have created in 4 or 5 pages or more. In reality, you might have even 20-30 pages. What you can do is that you can use the symbols, and when you come across the decision to change them, you can change it in the original document. So what this does is that it will change automatically all the symbols in other documents. So this is one very powerful thing that Illustrator has. It links with another document and it changes whatever you change over here in the original document. So it is like an object-oriented program. So all the programmers out there who can understand this, it's like when you change the original object, all the instances are changed as well. So symbols can be resized without affecting the original. So though when you change the original document, the other documents are resized, but when you resize a symbol which is an instance, the original doesn't get affected. So that is a pretty cool feature. Alright, so we have consistency in and consistency can also be enforced by using templates. What templates is that template can have a lot of styles, a lot of symbols, and a lot of graphic styles, color schemes, all of them under one place, and you can reuse them again and again. So let us say you're working for 4 or 5 companies, you're working for 4 or 5 different startups or industries, and you're using one particular type of style, font and all that for one company each. So since you're working with 5 different companies, work can get a bit cluttered. It'll get a bit hassled. So what you do is that you save certain styles, paragraph styles, symbols, color schemes, and all the other document settings like what the spacing is, what the layout is. All these things can be saved in one file called a template file, and you can use other styles for another company. So when the first company gives you work again, when it tells you to change certain things or add new elements, you can directly refer to the template file and start off working from there. So what this does is it limits your extra time. It cuts down your time, and you can work around with this much better. Alright, so for consistency we also have something called components. So you can componentize certain elements, and you can save those elements as separate files. So you can import them into other documents, and when you import, this creates a link to the original document. And as we have talked about in the symbols, when you make changes to the original, it affects the others as well, which is a powerful feature, because if you want to replace a lot of let us say 100 symbols, doing manually each and every part of them will be a big task for you. So this is a very powerful thing. And then we have precision and layouts. So what precision means is that when you want certain elements to align with each other pretty accurately, following a line, or maybe you want a design element or an icon occurring at this portion, a specified portion, you can do that using Illustrator's tools, which are you have something called grids, you have something called tool guides, you have something called smart guides as well. So as you can see, since vectors rely on mathematics, selection of objects, movement of objects, and resizing all happen with laser-like accuracy. So you have a ultra precise drawing and layout environment, and you have to end the slide, you have grids and tool guides, and you can see in the pictures given on the right side, we have grids in the first image and guides in the second. So what these do is that they help you to align certain elements, as well as they'll tell you where your major centering should be done, where a certain element should be focused, and all the same. And and further continuing, you have layout grid, you have smart guides. Smart guides are certain things that happen when you're rearranging elements with respect to another. So they'll tell you where one point is intersecting another, where an anchor point can be used, or where a centering of the element can be done. So there is no necessity in eyeballing where elements line up. You can directly refer to these smart guides and they'll help you around while in real time working, and as you move around elements they'll tell you whether this object is centering with the other or not. So these are certain powerful features that Illustrator has. Alright, so with this we end the first video, the first lesson. So I hope you've had some good time learning a lot of things. So we've talked about a lot of features. We have talked about consistency, we have talked about layout precision, we have talked about color schemes, we have talked about typography. So all these are reinforced in Illustrator's tools. So these tools are pretty powerful. So I would suggest all you UI designers, if you haven't started yet using Illustrator, you should do so today. And I'm hoping to see you guys in the further tutorials as well, as I talk about various other things, various other chapters covering from the textbook that I have mentioned before, as well as my own personal experience with UI design for over 3 years. Alright guys, thanks a lot for watching, and keep watching. Subscribe to these videos and share them if you like them, and tell your friends about it. Alright, bye bye.